Hello all and welcome to Crochet Designs. My name is Mary and in today's tutorial we are working on part 4, the final part of our Halloween gorgeous rosy red filet top. Now I'll be wearing my particular top for Halloween, not sure what you're wearing yours for, but look at that, it is versatile. You can wear it over the dress, a little black dress which I have it over, or you can wear it over any singlet top or blouse. It has plenty of arm space, as you can see here, 3 fingers worth, so if you wanted to make your arm or your sleeves a little longer, you can. And yes, of course, she's always silly when she does these videos. For this tutorial, you will need your crochet hook that you use to start your top with, your scissors, your sewing needle. You definitely need that sewing needle, and you'll need your time because it does go for a little long. Also, I did make a little error in the neck edge, but I literally just redid it in a smaller version for you. It wasn't really an error, I've just misplaced the videos or I didn't record it. One or the other, but it's missing and I've just made it in a shorter version for you. Alright, so without further ado, I'm going to let you get started creating part 4, the final part of our rosy red filet top. Good luck all. At the end of part 3, I asked you to do the amount of rows you needed for your size. Please check those rows in the description box down below before creating our next step. So what I want everyone to do is to, and let's get a close-up, this is your full piece. What you want to do is find the center. Now, when you're counting the center, you're counting your half trebles all the way across this way and your half trebles all the way across this way. Your center will be a space, okay? Everyone will have a space. So really, in my case, I've got 52 half trebles across. So I calculated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. So across there to there should be 26 as well. And then I've got extra small to medium. So extra small to medium, what I want you to do is grab your stitch marker, and that's a space that you've got your stitch marker in. So with this stitch right here, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Pop your stitch marker in the 5th stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Large to 2 extra large. You pop yours in the 6th stitch. Yeah. 3 extra large to 5 extra large. You pop yours in the 7th. All right. Then you grab another stitch marker. Go back to this space. Go on this side. And you count extra small to medium. You guys go 1, 2, 3, 4. Pop your stitch marker in the 5th. Large to 2 extra large, you pop yours in the 6th. 3 extra large to 5 extra large, you pop yours in the 7th. So now what we want right here is, this is pretty much where you are going to, let's try this one because this is where we are. That's where we are. We're going to chain 1, turn, pop our stacked single crochet like normal. We're going to continue our pattern like normal until we get to that stitch marker. All right, and we're going to do that now. Alrighty guys, a quick apology before continuing. I have misplaced how to divide the neck edge. I don't know whether I didn't record it or not. I'm not sure. But what we're going to do is work on a little small piece here just to get us out of trouble. All right, so what we're going to do now is just start our next side. So we're going to chain 1 like normal, and let's bring this closer. Flip your piece and do your stacked single crochet or standing half treble. That's 2 and 3. Now the sides of your work where your sleeve edge is not going to change ever in this piece, but the inner section where your middle front will be changing. So this area will stay the same and the beginning of this area will stay the same. So you need to chain 1 because you've got your half treble there, skip over your half treble, go into the chain 1 space and start like normal, or continue like normal I should say. And I forgot to put a stitch marker in, guys. Pop your stitch markers in. And what I want you to do is continuing pattern all the way across, get to the space before your stitch marker. In fact, don't even do that space, get to the space before that, complete that, meet me around here once you're done, and we'll talk about what we're going to do next. Alrighty guys, so I asked you to get to the space before your first stitch marker. And then what we're going to do is skip over that half treble and place our half treble in there like normal. However, our half treble and that stitch marker, we're going to do both of those stitches together as one. All right, it's called half treble 2 together. So start your half treble like normal, pop your hook in the space, pull a loop through, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through the first loop, 3 loops left, yarn over, pull through the next 2 loops, hold it there, yarn over your hook again, into the stitch with your stitch marker, pull a loop through, and now you have 4 loops, yarn over, pull through the first loop, still 4 loops, yarn over, pull through the next 2 loops, now you have 3 loops left, and you're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. And you can see how the 2 push in together as one. We have made 2 spaces into one, giving it a slight opening towards the V of your neck. Yeah. Remove your blue stitch marker. You don't need it there anymore. Chain 1, flip your work. Leave the other 2 stitch markers here. You need them there. All right. So in the same stitch, you're doing your stacked single crochet like normal. And it's a normal half treble like so. All right, so from here, we're going to place a half treble in that space like normal. Excuse me, pop your stitch marker in there. Come on, Mary. She keeps forgetting those stitch markers. So half treble in your next chain space. In you go with your half treble. Easy. Now chain 1, pattern across. All right, so I'm not going to hold you up and let you watch me do mine. I would like for you to do your pattern all the way across, get to the end of your row, and remember you're following pattern here. So you've got your chain 1 space there, then you've got 2 trebles there. Chain 1 space, so this row will have your 2 trebles, 1 in the space and 1 on the stitch. All right, so continue that row, get to the end of the row, and I'll meet you there once you're done. Alrighty guys, so I asked you to get to the end of the row and complete the end of the row like you would any other second last row, okay, which is half treble in there and half in the stitch. I've split my stitch, don't worry about that, in the stitch with your stitch marker. All right, so there you go. That's row number 2. Chain 1, flip your work. Row number 3, stacked single crochet like normal. Again, nothing changes at the end of the armhole edge yet. Later when we put the seams together, that's when things will be different. All right, so what I want you to do now simply is, just good on you, man, pattern all the way across until you get to your stitch marker, or at least a few stitches before your stitch marker, and the pattern is chain 1, half treble in your next space. You know this part of the pattern, you get it. Half treble, chain 1, half treble all the way across. You know this part. I don't need to show you. I'm rushing because I know that you know this bit. Yeah, it's the spaced row. Okay, but get to the end of the row and maybe get to the second last space right there. Meet me there, and we'll talk about what we're going to do next. Alrighty guys, so I asked you to get to the end of this row and I said leave that space available, because what we're going to do is do a normal chain 1 and a half treble in the space like so, but don't chain 1. These 2 half trebles we're going to do 2 together. So yarn over your hook in the first stitch, pull a loop through, 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, hold it there, yarn over your hook, into the stitch with your stitch marker, pull a loop through, 4 loops, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. 3 loops left, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on your hook. Remove that stitch marker. Chain 1, turn your work. Stacked single crochet in that stitch right there like normal. Place your stitch marker right there. All right, so now what we're going to do is place a half treble on top of the half treble that's here. So right on top of, into the stitch, that is. Well, let's get a nice close-up because we're far away. Yeah, half treble right on top of the stitch. Like so. Then a half treble in that chain space. Like so. Then you chain 1, pattern across. All right, so it's initially the front edge that's changing. Your other side of your pattern stays exactly the same. All right, so what I want you to do is continue that pattern all the way across, get to the stitch with your stitch marker, and I'll meet you there once you're done. Alrighty, now you can start to see the little, your work going this way, which is normal, yeah? All right, now I asked you to get to the end of the row, complete it like normal, gorgeous, like so. You can get into that stitch. Hello, with your stitch marker, yeah? Let me remove it. I don't know what's going on there. All right, so let's go into the stitch. Oh, it's a really tight stitch with your stitch marker. Chain 1, turn your work and stacked single crochet like normal. Stitch marker. And what do we usually do here? It's a bigger space, so we chain our 1, skip over our half treble, and that's the pattern across now, which is chain 1, skip, pattern across until you get to, and I'm rushing this because I don't want to waste any more of your time, until you get to all this area here. I would get to the last chain space, do your half treble, chain 1, meet me there, and then we'll talk about what we're going to do next. Alrighty guys, here we are at the end of this section here, and I asked you to place your half treble in your last stitch, chain 1 like normal. You're going to skip this half treble and you're going to place a half treble 2 together on these last 2 stitches. So skip that one, jump into the second last stitch, pull your loop through, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over your hook, into the last stitch, pull a loop through, 4 loops, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on your hook. Remove your stitch marker. Chain 1, turn your work, stacked single crochet like normal, 1, too tight, don't do them too tight guys, 2, of course, don't do them too loose either, yeah? 3, she says at the end of the project. Don't you love it? This is the end of the project, yeah. What we're going to do here, continue in this manner. You've got your half treble there. You need to place a half treble in that space, all right? You're actually in this stitch, so you're going to go into the first space and do a half treble, like normal. And then you're going to chain 1, skip over your half treble and pattern all the way across your piece. All right, so go ahead and do that now. Pattern all the way across, get to the end of the row, meet me there once you're done and get ready for pattern change. Alrighty guys, so I asked you to get to the end of this row, gorgeous, and just do your final your final row like you would normally, your final stitches like you would normally do. Yeah. Chain 1, turn your work. Now, 5, this is where we've got changes on the pattern. 3 extra large to 5 extra large, I want you to do 2 rows of just a normal pattern. When you get to the end of this row, you're doing your half treble, chain 1, half treble in that space, chain 1, half treble. Okay, that's what you're doing all the way across, pretending like nothing has changed, which really nothing hasn't for you. Okay, so just do a pattern across, turn and do a pattern across again and meet us here. So you need to do 2 more rows. 3 extra large to 5 extra large, do 2 more rows. Don't worry about decreasing, just do your normal pattern across, okay? And meet us back here at this time, and all other sizes, this is what I want you to do, all right? And you're doing your stacked single crochet like normal. 2, 3, stitch marker. All right, now don't chain 1. Everyone is going to pop a half treble in the top of that half treble. And in that chain space, half treble. That's the whole space, yep. And in the next stitch, on top of the half treble, you're doing a half treble. So really all you're doing is half trebles all the way across. Don't chain 1 in between. Did I do a half treble there? Yes, I did. Just do your half trebles all the way across your piece. All right. Half trebles all the way across. Get to the end of the row right here, and I'll meet you there once you're done. Alrighty guys, here we are at the end of the row. Now this is all sizes should be at the end of this row now. Yeah. So what I want everyone to do, all sizes, go into the last stitch, pull a loop through like so, and remove your stitch marker. Pull up a loop, or if you want to call it chain 1, whatever you want to call it. And what I want you to do is cut that loop. Now I'm not going to, because this is a scrap piece. I'm going to leave that attached. That's just for my benefit so I don't end up with scraps everywhere. All right. So you go ahead, cut your piece. We're going to weave that end in. Oh, wait a minute. Don't cut it yet. My apologies. Make a double length or triple length like so. Double, 1, 2, 3, because you're going to use this thread to attach to your back later and then cut it. Now, if you've already cut it, don't worry. You can just attach it with another thread later. There's no big deal. Remember how we started this side? We're going to do the other side the same, but the way the pattern works is we worked along here for this side. So we've got to start at this next stitch marker, not the center one, the next one. Okay, the reasoning is because you want to keep both your sides in sync. They've got to go the same way. All right, so what I want you to do is grab your hook, go over to skip that first stitch marker that should be actually in the space anyway, go into the stitch with your next stitch marker, remove it like so. Yeah, gorgeous. Now your starting rows here and your decrease rows here, that is, both of them, starting and decrease, are going to be different from this side completely. All right, so what we want to do in this case is do a stacked double crochet instead of a stacked half treble. And that goes like this. First, pop your yarn over your hook, pull a loop through, pass your loop forward to lock it into place. I'm not going to. Chaining 1 like normal. All right, in that same stitch, you're going to do a stacked single crochet, but it's going to be like a double instead of a triple. Usually we do 3, now we're going to do 2. So single crochet your first, yeah, do your second on top of that, hold it there. That's the end of this stitch. But I was going to put my stitch marker, but we're not going to. The stitch marker will go into your next stitch. All right, so over here you've got your half treble in that space. So what you want to do is place your half treble in the space, yeah, like normal. And that's where you place your stitch marker. All right, that's the end of your row. Instead of that stacked single crochet for your double stitch instead of a half treble, that is no longer the end of your row. Your end of your row will be in the half treble, okay? Don't worry if it doesn't make too much sense. You'll see the way it goes over, the same way it goes this way, all right? It'll work the same way. Just looks a little different and the stitches started different. In the meantime, guess what? All you have to do here is chain one and pattern across, all right? That's it for this section. So go ahead and do that now. Whoops. Chain one and pattern across. Gorgeous. And then meet me back here. Actually, now what I want you to do is to go all the way across, turn. Instead of doing one row at a time, I want you to go all the way across, complete your stitch there, turn, come back here, and then wait for me there. All right, so go ahead and do that now, and I'll meet you there once you're done. All right, so I hope that made sense before where I asked you to go across the row, chain up your one, do your half treble, and then get back to this section here. Okay, you've already done it on this side, so I'm assuming this side would have been easier for you. So what we're going to do here, there is a space before our set here. You're going to do your normal, you're chaining one and your normal half treble in that space like that. It helps it keep in sync with the same side here. Doesn't matter because it's going to change in a minute anyway. So you're going to do your half treble in that final stitch with your stitch marker. This is all sizes, by the way. Remove your stitch marker. Chain one, turn your work. All right, so what you have is that. Gorgeous. Now what we're going to do is the same thing we did here. We're going to do our stacked single crochet, but like a double crochet rather than a half treble. So do your single crochet one and two. Hold it there. Now you're going to go into that next stitch with your half treble, and then you place your stitch marker in that stitch. All right. Over here, we're going to place another half treble in this space. No chaining, just a half treble in the space. And then you start your pattern all the way across your piece. All right, so I hope that made sense. If it sounds confusing, don't stress, just copy exactly what I do. Okay, so continue in this manner all the way across. Chain one, do the start like normal. Do the start like normal and then come back over this way. All right, do that now. Meet me back here once you're done and we'll talk about what we're going to do next. Alrighty guys, so I asked you to get across that row, do your normal chain one, turn, and then do your half trebles all the way across to this section right here. Now you needed to place your half treble in your chain one space, the last one, and then what you're going to do here is make a half treble in that second last stitch, and then a half treble in the stitch with your stitch marker. So initially you've ended up with, if you had to think about it, 3 half trebles in this row right here, right there. Yep. Remove your stitch marker, chain or one, turn, make your stacked single crochet, just 2. Yeah. 1 and 2. And then you're going to place a half treble in the very next stitch. So no chaining, just a half treble in that next stitch. And that's where you pop your stitch marker. And then you're going to continue a pattern like normal. Chaining 1, skip this next half treble into the space, all the way across like so. Chain 1 into your next space, and so on all the way across. Okay, so what I want you to do is to do that half treble all the way across, chain your 1, turn, get all the way over to here, stop here, meet me there once you're done, and we'll talk about what we're going to do next. Alrighty guys, so I asked you to get to the end of this row. I said to Continue in the manner, get it to the end of that row, turn and come here. And right at the very end, I placed my last half treble in the space. Don't chain one. Just jump straight into the stitch with your stitch marker. Do your last half treble like so. Now I want everyone to just chain one and turn, except for 3 extra large to 5 extra large. You guys do 2 more rows in pattern. No more decreasing or anything, just do 2 more rows in pattern. All right. So everybody, when you've done your 2 rows in pattern, meet us back here at this time and then you can continue this next row with us. All right. So single and single and single. Why? Because that's what we've been doing all along. Okay. And what I want you to do is do a half treble in the top of that half treble. So your normal half treble. A half treble in the space. A half treble in the top of your next half treble, and so on, whoops, and so on and etc. All the way across. Now having a look at your piece, and like so, I think if I can get it out. All you're doing here is repeating that row. So you are filling up every space and going into every stitch with your half treble across the row. All right, continue in that manner. Meet me here at the end of the row and then we'll talk about what we're going to do next. Alrighty guys, so here we are at the end of this row right here. Let's get a close up. And once again, you're going to do the same thing as you did to the opposite side by placing your half treble in the second last stitch and your half treble in your last stitch, like so. Once again, pull up a loop, give yourself a long enough tail. I'm a little pedantic, you know me, so I just make the tail extra longer. You guys know me by now, and if you don't know me, I'm very pedantic with ends and tails and things. All right, so now you have, very exciting, both your sides done. Now this is the back. All right, the back piece is, well, we're not even in frame. Let's try that. Oh, that didn't help much. The back piece is one whole piece, as you know. This is where we first chained and then we turned at the end and did our half trebles across. And this is the very top where we cut our thread and got it ready for attaching. All right, this is the right side of our piece, how you can tell. If you have a look at those V's right there, they're facing you. If this was the other way, when you're looking for those little V's where we count, the stitches are going downwards, that's the wrong side of your work, all right? So what we want is the right side facing us, all right? So there you go, right side is facing us. Grab your front. Now again, this is the right side of our fronts. For a start, as you know, because your threads ended up in your left hand. But you've got your stitches here, and once again, they're facing you. What you want to do is face that side on top of this. So you're actually wanting to look at the wrong side of your work for your front. So right now, pop the right side down like that. And let's get up here, right here. I got threads everywhere here, guys, because I saved them for the side seams. You didn't have to do that, right? So all you want to do is get the 2 right sides together like so. Yeah. And we're just going to pop a stitch marker there just for the sake of popping one right there. I've still got the stitch marker on the opposite side. Look at that. Let's take that one out. We don't need it there. All right, so there and all the way across there. You don't have to worry about counting this much because you've got your thread here that you're going to use to sew along there. So as long as your tail was long enough, yeah? So now your job, super easy, grab your sewing needle. I'm going to grab a darning needle. The difference between a sewing needle and a darning needle is the point. The point of a normal sewing needle is quite thin, so it's easy to go through and split stitches. The darning needle has more of a blunt point, all right? So for sewing things together, it is better to have a blunt point because this way it doesn't split your yarn. the sewing needle can split your yarn, which is good for sewing and weaving in ends, yeah? But you know what? If you haven't got one, it doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong way of doing this. I also find the darning needle easier to thread. Don't you love it? Just more worried about how easy it is to thread. All right, so simple stitch here. All you're doing is you can remove your stitch marker now. So you go into your first stitch and then into your first stitch on the opposite side. We're going to make some light there, that's better. And just pull that thread through. Not too tight, yeah, just like a normal pulling through. Then you're going to go back into it. This is only for the first stitch, just for reinforcement, yeah. So pull that through again and then make sure it's just going over the top like that. And then you're going to do the second stitch on this side, and let's see where we are. We're in that one, so we want the second stitch on that side. And it might help for your piece to be facing you from the top, and I'll show what that means. So facing you like this way, so you can see where you're going. We're in that stitch, we're going into the third stitch on this side. You can see your thread in there, so you want to go into the very next stitch on your next side. Once again, I'm just pulling my thread forward so that it can stay on top and not going around the front. It's going up the top, yeah? So once again, you find the fourth stitch on this side and you can see the thread there, so you're going into the next side. Some of my stitches are a little looser than others. That's okay. It's okay. There's no problem. All right, and you know, that's pretty much it. You're just finding the very next stitch on one side, find the thread where it's going in there, and you're going into the very next stitch, like so. It's a very simple process, just takes a long time. It's like anything, really. And if you want to see how it's looking, just open up and that's the way it looks. If you don't like that look, there are many other ways to sew your piece together. You can also, and I'll show you what I'm doing, I'll just pop my hook in for the sake of it. There, if you wanted to, I'll just use a bit of this thread for now. You could also slip stitch your piece together. Let's just pretend, we'll take that needle out for a minute. If you decided to slip stitch, just chain one for your first stitch and then just go into every stitch across and pull your loop through like so. And I'll show you what that looks like as well. So you can use a needle hook to slip stitch together. If you're going to do this, however, just drop a hook size, okay? Unless, of course, your stitches are loose like mine. And I find that a bit thicker, whereas that's more of a flatter look. So that's kind of bulky. You can feel it bulky underneath. But that's up to you. If you wanted to do the crochet hook one, just go right back to the beginning and do the crochet hook one, all right? The reason I'm telling you this is because it's going to take me a long time to go across here. But what I want you to do is keep sewing or crocheting your thread all the way across. Get to your second last stitch and wait for me there, all right? So you head off on your own. Do that now and I'll meet you there once you're done. Alrighty guys, so here I am at the end of the row. I've actually completed my second last stitch there. Now I want to go into the last stitch with a stitch marker. You may have yours removed, that's okay. And we're in that stitch, we want to go into the next. Remove that stitch marker, you won't need it there anymore. And just pull it through like so. And like the beginning, how we reinforced it with 2, we're going to do the same here. So you're going back into this stitch right here, back into the stitch that you are in, like so. But before you pull it through, just wrap one thread around it like that, and that's just going to knot it for you anyway. But that's not done. I'm going to swap needles. You don't need to if you know how to weave in with that super thick needle. I'm going to pop in a normal needle with a thinner point and we're going to weave this tail in. Make sure that it's all correct, and if you want to check, just turn it through and make sure you haven't split any yarn. I haven't checked that actually, come to think of it, but there you go. Make sure it's all correct. And then you want to weave in this tail. Now you could either weave it in across the sides at the back of the stitch there. We are going to do a row of single crochet around this piece later. Just keep that in mind. I'm just going to weave it through a few stitches along the shoulder seam like that. And my tail is not, there we go, shortened. Let's shorten it a little bit. There we go. and just weave it through. Don't pull too tight, yeah, but you want to weave it through so that you can split it a little bit so that it doesn't come undone. I would have gone a third time, but what I'm going to do, now you don't have to do this. This is something I always do. I'm going to leave my tail up the top because later when I do my row of single crochet, I'm going to crochet over the tail. This is me being pedantic and reinforcing. You don't have to do that. You can cut your tail right now and leave it where it is, okay? I'm just really over the top with tails, I really am, and my regulars know that. By the way, if you're joining us new, don't forget to subscribe, guys, because we do so much on the channel, from blankets to tops to everything else. So there's so much we do, so much. I can't even keep up. All right, so you've done one side. You want to move right over to the other side. You may notice I have a stitch marker here. For this side, you need to count your stitches across this way because your thread, this one, is facing this way, okay? As this one was facing this way, this one should be facing this way as well. So we're actually starting. Now, if you want to add your thread to the opposite side and work that way, you don't need to count, right? But if you're starting from this side here, which I am, I'm going to count my stitches across, which I did, and make sure that the stitches across this way add up so that you don't end up being short right at the end of the row. So do that now. Count your stitches across this way, count that way, add your stitch marker to the back, and rethread your needle. So here we are with the beginning again. Let's move everything out the way so we can see what we're doing. And I've popped it in the wrong needle. Look at that. But there you go. So we're going to go into the first stitch that we are in. Find your stitch marker and pop your sewing needle or your darning needle in that stitch of the stitch marker. Pull it through and remove your stitch marker. But we're going to reinforce this stitch. So we're going back into the stitch and then back into the stitch on the opposite side and just pull that thread through. And I would pull it through up the top and not on the side of the stitch, all right? Up the top like so. And then you go into your second stitch there. You can see where your tail is there. Go into the very next stitch. Am I too far away? I am. Let's get a nice close-up for you. Again, pull your thread like so up the top. So it's not coming down this way. It's going up the top, yeah? And once again, you're in this stitch. You want to go into the very next stitch here. You're in that stitch. You want to go into the next stitch. This is where a darning needle comes in handy. Okay, and just pull that through like so. Now you know what you're doing because you've done it already. And your job now is to simply do it all the way across your piece. I'm not going to sit here and let you watch me do this. I'm going to change my needle, pop the darning needle on. And I'll explain it to you why just real quickly. When you're sewing in your threads that way, right? If you're using a pointy needle, you have that tendency to, and you can't do it with this now, split the yarn. But when you've got a darning needle like this, it just goes straight through into the holes and no splitting. That's the only reason why I like to get the thick ends. You don't have to get the little flick. Just get a thick end so that you're not pinning yourself if it touches your skin. Okay, but there you go. Your job now, I'm sorry, a bit of trivia there, is to continue in that manner all the way across. Get to your second last stitch on this side right here, and then we'll talk about what we're going to do next. Alrighty guys, here we are at the end of the row, and now I'm on my second last stitch there and there on the opposite side, and the very, very last stitch, which is a bit tight there on that side and loose on the other. Don't you love it? And pulling it through just once for now. And then you're going through that second time. I may have to separate mine to find it. Yes, pull it through the second time. But remember, oops, don't split that yarn like I just did there. Remember to just pop a loop that way, pull it through like that. And then you want to weave your tail in. Before you do, make sure that it's all correct. Yeah, not pulling a thread or anything. Gorgeous. So go ahead and weave that tail through, and I'm going to change needles yet again. All right, I just did that off air, guys. I didn't want to waste your time. All right, so you're just going to literally, once again, let's move this out the way so you can see, just find some stitches and just weave them through. Make sure you can't see the needle from the front. You can actually leave it there, or if you're anything like me, you can pass it through so that we can do our single crochet row around the edges, even around the sleeves, yeah? All right, you now want to work on the side seams. Now, side seams can be a little tricky, but not completely, and I'll explain why. What I did, and I'll do the same with you guys, extra small to medium, I want you to count down from these spaces here. So your very first space is there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So I've calculated that if extra small to medium counts 15 spaces down, place your stitch marker in the 15th space. I can get it down. All right. Extra small to medium goes in the 15th space. Okay. Large to 2 extra large, you go down to the 16th space. 3 extra large to 5 extra large, you go down to the 17th space. All right, that's giving you plenty of leeway for your armhole. Okay, place your 2 stitch markers there. Right, grab your piece like so, grab 1 stitch marker and close it like this. Stitch marker in there and stitch marker on the opposite side like so. Remove the other stitch marker, and what you're going to do now is you're going to start from the base, sewing this piece together, which I'll show you how to do in a minute, all the way up until you get to the top of your 15th, which we'll do together anyway, so don't worry about it, okay? That's what you're going to do all the way up. Now, let's just assume we're going to start a new tail specifically for you. You need to grab a piece of thread, the same length that it is, double it, triple it if you're worried about it, give it a cut, and then thread it. Grab your 2 right sides together again. Remember, you're working with your wrong sides facing you and your right side's on the middle. You start from the base. Yeah, let's pretend that's not there. You go into your base stitch, which is your chain stitch, and then you go into the base stitch of your opposite side. It's relatively tight, like so, and pull it through until you get to the end of your piece. Leave yourself this much tail for weaving in. All right, you want to do that thing we did before where you're going in there, back through, and you're reinforcing it. I'm not going to do it because I'm taking this thread out later, and I'll explain why. All right, so whilst you're here, you want to make sure that you are sewing the right section together. Now, this is the half treble full stitches together. You want to sew those 2 together. So keep going in and out of stitches like so. Okay, I'm going to be pulling mine out, so don't worry about mine. There's threads everywhere, don't worry about that. Going into the very next stitch and into your next like so, and let's just pretend there's no knots there. And then you're going to make sure that you marry each row up with each row. And you'll know the first row has 2 half trebles. Your next row has 1 half treble. You want to keep it in sync. The other way of doing it is to grab these tails. Now, this is not necessary, okay? This is something that I do. Because you're going to have tails anyway, I make them long enough to go all the way down, right? This will only go 3/4 of the way down, then I'll use this tail to go 1/4 of the way up. Bit of a sucker for punishment in that area, but to be fair, I do think it's wise to use your edges for that. Now, this is not necessary, guys. This is something that I do. And it's just a little tip that I wanted to give you, and only do this if you are an experienced crocheter. There's nothing worse than you go halfway down, you've made a mistake, you've popped a knot in already, and you cut it to get it open, and you end up cutting it up to here. So you don't want to do this if you are not a professional. So all you want to do is count your spaces down, yeah? That's your single, and you've got 2, single, 2, wrong way, let's do this one. Single, 2, single, 2, single, 2, and this one is a single. So I'm going to pop this thread in the base stitch of this single set right there, right? So again, don't do this if you're not experienced, yeah? So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spaces down. Hang on, what did I do? Let's try that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, she says, as she's supposed to be the professional. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we're in the base of the 7th. Go into the base stitch of your 7th on that side. So maybe in this case, I might just go up to this armhole. Now you don't need to do that, okay? Because I just realized there's no stitches that goes up that way. So I'm going to go up to the armhole. So that's in my first stitch on this side, first stitch on that side. Whoops. And then we're coming back over here, going into the second stitch and the second stitch. Don't make the mistake of missing a stitch, yeah? And now at least you can see better. And then you go into the base stitch. Now you don't have to. I just want to do that for security. So into the base stitch on one side, into the base stitch on the other. And we want that tighter. We don't want it loose. We don't want it too tight though, yeah. And then you're going into the first stitch on your second set, yeah. And we're on our second with the two half trebles one side, 2 half on the other. But you're going into that very first stitch, all right. It should not be difficult to do this part, all right? So just keep doing that all the way across. One stitch, or I should say 2 in the space, and then 1 into the base of your stitches. And all the way through until you get up to the top. It's going to take me forever. So what I want you to do is keep going with your base stitch all the way up to there. And later, if you want to do it my way, you just take that stitch and these threads here, one goes all the way up, one goes all the way down. If you're doing it my way. If not, you should be down here with your first view and just keep going all the way up. Get to your armhole section, get to the space of your armhole section there. Just do that stitched area there, leave that space free, and we'll all work on that together. Also, I forgot to mention, guys, to do exactly the same with the opposite side. Find your count all the way down, make sure it evens up with your other side, yeah? Pop your stitch markers in, pop your stitch marker in the whole piece, and start sewing from the bottom up or the medium part down or in between, wherever you've got tails, it doesn't matter, all right? For those of you who are new to crochet, just add a new thread and work your way up. Leave your other tails here and I'll show you how to weave them in later, all right? If you're new to crochet, do not attempt that special trick where you go down and back here. That was just a little tip that I have for having a lot of tails. Now, you're going to have tails anyways because this is a relatively large top, yeah? So you're going to have tails. And I figure if I'm going to have tails, I may as well use them to sew the edges, all right? But there you go. So head off on your own, complete the side that we just started, and do this side. it's exactly the same, all right? It's a bit like the top part, yeah? It's exactly the same, but this side is exactly the same. You go down or up, whichever you want to do, down or up. Make sure that your piece is even on both sides, that they match, yeah? Count down and make sure they match, all right? So go ahead and do that now. Do both sides. Meet me back here and get ready for border rounds. Alrighty guys, so I have stitched all the way up. Now where I asked you to place your stitch marker, which is right there, we still have, or I still have the base of that stitch before it. And we're just going to finish at the end of these 2 half trebles here. Okay, we're not going to finish in the space, we're going to finish at the half trebles. So let's remove at the 2 half trebles, yeah? Remove the stitch marker and just complete these 2 where there's 2, yeah? So, there, I got 1 there. And, oops, no, that's the first stitch. We don't want it in that. We want it there. Okay, lucky because I'm running out of thread. Don't you love it? Yarn chicken, huh? On the second one, all right. And when you get to that space, just go into the normal stitch like you would any other way. And before you pull that through, just make a loop and pop it in that loop and then just give it a tug. And that's kind of knotted it in place. If you want to do it one more time, you can. I'm running out of thread, so I'm not going to. I'm going to leave that there. And we're all going to weave this in. And when you see me weave this in, you're going to weave in all your other ends, okay? So all you need to do with this end here is to go again along some stitches. So notice how I'm just splitting some threads, making sure you can't see the needle from the inside of your work, because remember we're working inside out at the moment, the wrong side of our work at the moment. And just weave this tail through real quickly. Get excited guys, we're nearing the end. This is almost it. When I say almost, there's still a few more things to do, but I'll go back in the other direction, by the way, guys. Yeah. But this is the difficult part. The rest is so simple, yeah? So what I want you to do, once, twice, 3 times, whatever suits you, weave your tail in so it's gone. Do the rest with all other tails that you have here. And repeat the process for the opposite side. Now I've already done the opposite side, I just need to weave in my tails. And I'm not going to do that now because I want to do something else with you real quickly and get you started doing something else, right? So make sure you do the other side before doing this next step. All right, so now this is inside out still. We're going to worry about ends later for this part. Turn your work in the right side. So you're facing your work to the right side, which should look gorgeous. That's the top right there, simply divine, yeah? So that's your top looking gorgeous. That's the other side of your top, also looking gorgeous. Yep, just give it a bit of a shake. Give me one moment to get it into place. Some of ours are a little bigger than others, but we won't talk about that. And that is your side seams. It would probably benefit to have a washing and blocking, but we're not going to worry too much about that yet because we are going to worry about doing a border round just around the neck edge real quickly. You can start anywhere you like. Grab your yarn. Grab your yarn. Now, we are going to, it's just one row that we want to tighten it up a little so it's not dropping a bit, yeah? And if you don't want to, you don't have to do, this is not necessary, right? I'm going to pop mine in the center at the back. But you know, when I say center, I'm just going to go like this, a ruff. So just going to go 2, like that, 2, 2, 2, 2. And it doesn't have to be exactly in the center. It's a rough measurement, yeah? And just pop your hook into any stitch, like so. This is still the right side of your work, but it's the back where your neck edge is. So it's hidden under your hair or at the back. It doesn't matter anyway. Again, it's only one row, so it won't be noticeable of any seam line or anything. So there you go. Pop your little tail in front so you can lock it into place with a chain 1 and a single crochet right there. Don't do these single crochets too tight. pop a stitch marker in it like so. Gorgeous. Getting excited? Yeah, I'm rushing this part because this is simple. Yeah. Single into your next stitch. I'm crocheting over the tail, which I'll still weave in later anyway. Yeah. Single into your next and your next and so on and so forth until you get to, and you'll see it right now coming up, that seam edge. Now you've got here, that's your seam line. You're going to pop into that stitch, pull up a loop, hold it there. And what you've got is your seam line and the top of your stitch there. You're going to go into the seam line, pull up a loop, hold it there. Into the top of the stitch of your next stitch on the other side, or the front, if you will, pull up a loop, 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 4 loops on your hook, and you've just tightened that seam line together this way, reinforcing it so it doesn't come undone. It shouldn't anyway with the way we've done it. Now here, this is entirely up to you how you want to do it. I would single crochet, we are actually in this stitch, so don't worry about it. I would single crochet 2 in there. So 1 and 2. If you want to go into the chains, you can. I'm just going over the stitch. And then you've got this section here where you've got a stitch there, 1, and a stitch there, 2, for the next treble down. Okay, so stay focused into the base of the stitch, and then you have your 2 stitches, 1 and 2. All right, into the base or the top part, whatever you want to call it. I'll give you a close-up now so you can see what I'm doing. And then you've got your 1 and 2. Yeah. There's the base of your stitch. Now this is the area where we have decreased. So be careful here. You're going into that base stitch right there, which covers the decrease, into that stitch, 1. And then you've got your 2 that need to go in here. So 1 and 2. All right, 1 into the base of the stitch. And you need to pop 2 in here. And here we've got stitches. So it can just go into the stitches, 1 and 2. All right, I hope this is making sense, yeah? We've got our final section here. So we're going to go into the base of the stitch. And now we need to put 2 single crochets in here. But we've also got the little join here. Let's move this so it doesn't blur. We've also got the join here, and then it starts going along this edge. So what you want to do is just don't go into that section there, but just go into the space with 1 single crochet. And then you want to put 1, 2, and 3 together. So start your single crochet, hold it there, go into the stitch, hold it there, into the next space, 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 4 loops on your hook. And let me show you what you've done there. It's the same thing you did up here, yeah? But here it's a little interesting because you're closing up this whole section, and we'll talk about that later. All right, so you're now in there. What you want to do is go into the stitch of your half treble and then into the space, 1, and then into the stitch, 1, and then into the space, 1. All right, most of you would have started here. Some of you would, I think the 3 extra large and 5 extra large had another 2 stitches. So I hope that didn't confuse you too much. And just continue along this way. Just want to show you what you've done so you can see it. And that's the area that you, we're not even in frame. Come on, Mary. That's the top edge where our seam line is. And that's the area right there that you just did your 3 together. All right, so right there, you've tightened that area up so that it keeps it all together, stops it from falling down off the front of your top. All right, so let's continue. your job now is to continue putting single crochets into each space and single crochets into each stitch. Now I'm going to pop this on fast, so if you want to do that you can watch, and you can also pop your settings to slow down as well. All right, so single crochet into each stitch and single crochet into each chain space, and off we go. Alrighty guys, here I am. I have one last stitch there, and then I have all of the chain space, the stitch, and then the very next stitch left. So we're going to do that together. So single crochet 3 together. So in the chain space, pull up a loop, in the stitch, pull up a loop, over into the very next stitch, pull up a loop. You should have 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through all 4 loops on your hook, and notice how I just moved that over. You're going to pop a second single crochet in that space, and then you're going to jump not into there, actually yes, into there, sorry, into that space there with a single crochet, and then you're going to do your single crochets down this way. So 1 and 2 into each space and 1 into that loose stitch. Yeah, remember we have decreases here, so 1 and 2 into each space and 1 into the stitch. All right, and we're almost there. 1 and 2 into the chain space, 1 into the stitch. Don't forget our decreases are here. 1 and 2 into the chain space, 1 into the stitch, 1 and 2 into the chain space, 1 into the stitch, nearly there. This is it, we're getting close. And then 1 into the space. And now you're going to do 1, 2 and 3 together like we did before around the neck edge. This is a seam line, so you do 1, jump into the seam, 2, and then into the stitch from that side, 3, and you should have 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through all 4 loops, and this is easy. You jump into the next stitch with single, into the next, single, and you can see the stitches, so easy. Single, 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 until you get to your stitch marker. Very exciting. Let's just pop this on fast and off we go. Here we are at the end of the row. We've got 1 stitch left there, like so. Slip stitch into the stitch with your stitch marker, pull a loop through, pull up a loop, make it as long as you like. You're going to weave this tail in a minute, not right now, because we want to work on the sleeve. Alrighty guys, so now we're going to work on a sleeve edge. Just pick one of your sleeves, and let's just grab this one here. And that's the top part of your work. This is the underarm, and you want the right side of your work still. I'm rushing because this is it, guys. Believe it or not, this is it. All right, so what we want to do here simply is this. We're going to pop our hook. There's the seam line right there, right? You're going to pop your hook in a stitch before the seam line. Grab your thread and pop it over your hook. Just going to move everything out the way, pull it through like so. And of course, you know, you want to pull it forward just to lock it into place with a chain 1 and a single crochet. So pop your hook in the stitch, but before we do, let's get a close up, because this is not going to be just a single crochet. We're going to single crochet 1, 2 and 3 together. So in the stitch, pull a loop through, and I'm crocheting over my tail, not necessary. So when I say 3 together, we want the center of that stitch line. If you can't find it, just pop your hook anywhere, pull a loop through, 3 loops on your hook, yes, and then you're going to pop into the stitch on that section of your work. So you're now on the other side of your seam line, pull a loop through like that, 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 4 loops, grab your stitch marker and pop it there. So you know where you're going to slip stitch into at the end of the row. Round actually, because we're working in rounds now. Pop that tail at the back. I would crochet over it a little bit, not necessary, it's just something I do, but we'll pop it at the back so you can see what I'm doing here. So because this is kind of loose and weird, let's just pop a single crochet in there, not necessary. But when you get to these big spaces, this is not like the neck edge. I just want you to pop 2 single crochets in those spaces, like so. Because we're going to be tightening up the sleeve a little bit, yeah? 2 into the next, and I'm going to drop that tail at the back and crochet over it. So 1 and 2 into that space, and that's it. 2 into your next space, 1 and 2. If you want to know where I'm going, let's give you a real close up so I can show you. There's your big space, and you're just going 1 and 2. That's it. So you're skipping all that work there, jumping into your next space with 1 and 2. Super duper easy. All right, I'll bring that down again. And your job is to do just that. I'm not going to let you sit here and watch me do it. Do 2 single crochets into every... Oh, actually, you know what? We will do it. It doesn't take long. I'm going to pop this on fast, and we're going to do 2 single crochets into every stitch until we get to our area where we've got our closed stitches there. All right. So let's go ahead and do that now, and off we go. One and 2 into the space before that seam line there. So what we want to do here is just do 1 in that space. With your second one, we are doing 1, the seam line, 2 and 3 together. All right, so it goes 1 into the space, hold it there, 1 into that seam line, wherever it is. If it's too tight, just find another space to go into. If you've got a tail, keep it down and out at the back. Pull a loop through like that. You should have 3 loops on your hook. Now you go into the big space on the opposite side, pull a loop through, and you've got 4 loops, yarn over, pull through all 4 loops. Now it has tightened that up, that area a bit, but that's what we want, okay? Now you put a second one in that space there. And then you go into your very next space with 1 and 2. And so on all the way across your piece. Single crochet 2 into each space all the way across. Get to the big space before your stitch marker. Don't do that. Wait for me there, and we'll talk about what we're going to do next. Alrighty guys, I asked you to get to the end of the row. I don't know why I said don't do it, but I said don't do the last space. I've got my 2 in there, and just go into that last space with 2. I don't know why I asked you not to. And then you just slip stitch into the stitch with your stitch marker. Super duper easy round coming up, like very, very easy. Chain 1, single crochet in the same stitch you are in. Let's tell you exactly how easy this row is. Am I sounding rushed? Yes, I am. And here we go. Single in your first stitch and your second. And I don't know why I'm counting. It doesn't matter anymore. As long as you had 2 in each space, this will add up. All right, so single in every stitch. Look how fast I'm going. Woo! All the way along. Get to, and I'm spinning this top around like there's no tomorrow. Get to the very top edge right there. All right, you know what? Let's just pop this on fast. I really want to get this done. All right, I'm going to pop it on fast, and I will meet you up at the top edge where our seam line is. All right, So let me bring this down a little bit like that. No, let's try that. And off we go doing our single all the way across. Alrighty guys, you should be getting close to that edge there. Let me bring this up for you so you can see. And what we've got here is, and you can see your little V's. You just have to follow your V's over. And if you think about it, all of this together is together as one, yeah? But it doesn't matter, you're just going into each V, yeah? Now you have jumped right over that 3 together without even noticing. All right, does that make any sense? Don't worry about it, you're done, and let's have a look at it now. Right there. All right, so it is tightening this up a little bit, but that is what we need for this process. Okay, so single, 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 single all the way across your piece, and I want you to get to your stitch marker right there. Meet me there once you're done, and we'll talk about what we're going to do next. Alrighty guys, here I am at the end of my piece. I told you that was a simple row, the very easiest of all easy. Single, do you like that, of all easy? Single in that last stitch. This is a slip stitch. Be careful not to add, yeah? And you're just going to slip stitch over to that piece. Tighten it up a bit so you don't see that slip stitch. Now the reason I'm telling you that is because you're going to chain one, tighten that up and single into the same stitch. Place your stitch marker right there. You're going to repeat this row again. Now before you do, let's lift this up, pop a little stitch marker in there, and I will give you some explanations. All right, so that is your sleeve right there, and you're going to notice that this is going to tighten up a little. That is normal. That's the front right there, okay? So that's normal. It's supposed to tighten up. Now your job is to do that stitch and that row that you just did 4 more times. Yes? So all you need is another 4 more rows. Then meet me back here once you're done, and we will talk about what we're going to do next. Go ahead now and do your rows. Meet me back here once you're done. By the way, guys, that is all sizes exactly the same. Yeah. Meet me back here once you're done, and then we'll talk about what we're going to do next. Alrighty guys, here we are at the end of our 4th round, and we are going to finalize our work. Let's just bring this up. Gorgeous. And I have a second last stitch there. Slip stitch, I split the yarn. Slip stitch into the stitch with your stitch marker, pull up a loop, check your work, make sure it's correct, and guess what? Get rid of that thread, pull the loop through, weave that end in, repeat the process for the other side. Now I've got halfway through the other side, but I would like you to repeat the process for the other sleeve. Meet me back here once you're done and get ready to finalize our top. Alrighty guys, so I asked you to complete your second sleeve. Get up and do a victory dance, guys, because we're going to pull the loop through, or slip stitch really, and then pull it through, and then pull up a loop, check that you haven't made any errors, chop, 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 weave in your 2.5 million ends. And there you have it, guys. This is the beautiful top that I will be wearing on our Halloween funny video this year. Now that's coming up this Friday, the 31st of October 2025. And if you haven't been watching our community board posts this week, I've been popping up every funny, silly, whatever you want to call it, Halloween video I've done every year since 2020. Now this year is another funny video. It's going to be a lot shorter than normal because you, the subscribers here on our channel, by popular demand, have asked me to do more for Christmas than Halloween. So I'll still do a funny Halloween video. It'll be this small, maybe not that small, but like that, or maybe even like that. And it'll still be a funny Halloween video, but it'll be a lot shorter than normal. Thank you very much once again to the lovely Pamela for her color combination in today's pattern, and for the past 4 parts, however many parts we've done so far. A very special thank you, Pamela, for your color combination. And yours was a secret color combination. You chose the pack, and you chose for me to open the pack on part 1, which I did. So if you have not created this top, I have left a link to this top in the description box down below. 4 links to be exact. Part 1, 2, 3, and 4. In the description box down below. No, actually 3 links, part 1, 2 and 3, because this is 4, and you can click on those parts and start straight from the beginning where we do a gauge swatch. Otherwise your top may or may not fit if you don't do your gauge swatch. I cannot stress gauge swatches enough. Thank you for joining me. Look forward to seeing you on our lives at 10 a.m. Saturday mornings, Melbourne, Australia time, and 4 p.m. Wednesday afternoons, Melbourne, Australia time. Marry that up with your country, guys. And on Saturday mornings live, you as a subscriber gets to choose the color combination of our very next tutorial. This is a wonderful thing that we're doing here on the channel. I'm loving doing this. I'm loving having you guys a part of our tutorials, and I'll catch you all soon. Ciao for now. Ooh, can't wait for Friday. Bye all.